All right, Jim, are you ready to read some Reddit stories?
I am ready.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Melissa.
I'm Jam.
And I'm a chemist.
And I'm not.
And welcome to Chemistry for Your Life.
The podcast helps you understand the chemistry of your everyday life.
All right, and before we get started talking about what our episode is going to be about today, I want to call attention to, I know it's not quite Thanksgiving in the United States yet, but for everybody else, it's basically Christmas time. And even for those United Statesers, if you are interested in a cute holiday sweater, we have our Chemistry, Chem for Your Life sweatshirt that is available. This is our new and updated version. So Jam and I both are ripping ours. And actually, technically, this is Mason's. He got it for himself, and he was annoyed that I stole it to wear for this episode. He said, "That's mine."
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're married.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you do not cross Mason, by the way. Just FYI.
No,
Yikes,
he's
y'all
so
pray
nice.
for Melissa. I'm just kidding.
He's like, don't mess it up.
Yeah.
He's like,
But it's because it's cool. It's one of like, I mean, all of our designs are cool. This one, we had like a version we had for several years.
mm-hmm.
And then we redid it recently. It's like, it's fun. It's a pun. It looks like a sweater.
Yeah.
It's got that like very detailed kind of stitching look to it.
Yep.
But just a crew neck sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really love it. And he really loves it. I still have my old version, actually. I still wear it all the time. But, you know, I figured we'd want the updated ones.
Yeah.
So.
Go and get yours on chemforyourlife.com/store.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out.
And that supports us.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a cute chemistry sweater.
Yep.
So what else do you want?
Mm-hmm. Supports us once and you get the sweatshirt forever. So.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit of a different episode today. Jam and I are trying to get ahead in our recording. Sometimes it can be difficult to get all of our recordings in.
Mm-hmm. When holidays come up, especially.
Mm-hmm. And so as we're prepping and we're trying to stay on top of the situation, and I'm also trying to wrap up my work semester, it was a little difficult to put together a full episode this week. So what I did instead is I went and I tried to find Reddit stories that were about chemists or academia, but not about chemistry itself. So they're not like, explain it like I'm 5, how does soap work? You know, they're ones that are like, oh, I think my chemistry professor is mad at me. Or that's not really what I found. That's what the types of things I was looking for. And this was inspired by, sometimes I listen to Smosh Reads Reddit. And they had an organic chemistry story where it was like, hey, am I the jerk if I intentionally put errors in my organic chemistry notes that a cute girl is borrowing? It was like on a Google Doc so I can get her to talk to me and I can tutor her. And I was like, first of all, obviously, but second of all, she's not going to trust you to tutor her if you have mistakes in the Google Doc.
Yeah, that's not very thought out.
Yeah. So, but I was like, wait, there's chemistry stories like this?
Mm-hmm.
I listen to stories like this all the time. So I thought it might be fun to do, inspired by that, a little Reddit reading episode here. And so this is much more about like, you know, little mishaps or whatever. And so I found them, but I tried really hard not to read them.
Got it.
So I'm going to have Jam read them to me, and so I can try to react blind. I went based mostly on the title and a quick skim to make sure it wasn't super long.
Got it. Cool. Okay. And for the sake of some of the like reading usernames and all that kind of stuff, we'll put some of that in the show notes. I think it'll be easiest. And also, I guess I need to figure out a way to say this subreddit.
Maybe
too.
say messed. Today I messed up.
Got it. Okay, yeah. This subreddit is about times when people mess up. Today I messed up is the kind of beginning of all of these posts. So today I messed up by not knowing sunscreen chemistry. So this story actually starts in June. The summer I happened to be, this is a recent post.
This is so fun. I'm just getting someone to read Reddit to me. Okay, go ahead.
This summer, I happened to be going on 2 vacations, which has never happened in my life. In June, I went to Sweden and Norway for a choir tour, and in August, I went to Maine, where I am now. While packing for Scandinavia, I thought, I should bring some sunscreen. I know Norway is rainy, but I didn't want to risk a burn in a different country. So I grabbed my bottle of sunscreen. However, due to TSA regulations, I thought it would be easier to put it in my carry-on, so it needed to be at less than 3.5 ounces. No big deal, I thought. I'll squeeze some into a travel bottle to have. And so I did. I used a bit of sunscreen in Norway, and when I got back, I stowed my travel container under my bathroom sink and thought nothing of it. While packing for Maine, I pulled my travel container out and thought, great, I have sunscreen already packed, and went on with my life. I get to Maine, and day one is gorgeous. Gorgeous. Sunny, breezy, with low tide at noon, and it was perfect beach day. I slather on some sunscreen, and away I go. Throughout the 6-hour day, I reapply about 5 times, and I think, wow, I'm doing so great at sunscreen. I'm not going to get burned, and it'll be great. I'm sure you know where this is going. I get into bed, and I am a tomato. I don't even burn that often, but I am crispy. I'm trying to figure out why and decided to do a little bit of Google digging. Turns out sunscreen loses its effectiveness if not kept in its original container, especially for longer than a week or so. So I was effectively spreading useless white goop over myself for 6 hours. Dang.
So I suspected this might be the case for this story, although I hadn't heard it all the way through, so that was really funny. Listen, this is my pet peeve on, the TikTokies, the Instagram reels. People will be like, look at this cool hack. Take your toothpaste out of its container and put it in a clear soap pump bottle. Okay. Things are sold in the containers they're in oftentimes for a good reason. And sunscreen works by reacting with the sun. So if it's in a clear container, that light will be able to get through the clear container and it will do all of its screening from the sun that's not touching you, it's touching the bottle.
Right.
Which I think is what happened to our original poster here. Sometimes you call them OP on Reddit.
Yeah.
But I worry and often wonder, although I haven't officially looked it up, but fluorine, like in toothpaste, is an active ingredient in toothpaste, is also like F2 fluor can react with light. And so whenever people do that, I'm like, it's in a solid container. Have you ever seen toothpaste sold in a clear container? No. And that's probably on purpose. Or similar hydrogen peroxide. It's in that solid container.
Yeah.
As because it can react with light really easily. So there's reasons that they're sold that way.
Right.
So I hate this experience for this person. The way they wrote it was really funny.
Very funny.
But I would say in general, as a chemist, I noticed a trend of us putting new things. This wasn't for cuteness, but putting things in new containers. And I don't recommend doing that.
Yeah, I guess unless it's like similar container, like your shampoo might be in like a clearish plastic container and putting in a smaller one. Like, you've got to do that in some way. You have some version of smaller thing to take it. But at least with sunscreen, you can buy a small sunscreen bottle and maybe just refill that.
Yeah. And some things I wonder, like, is the container they're in keeping them from being exposed to air too much? So like you'd probably have more reaction over time if you squeezed it out into the open air and then put it into a second container. Yeah. But if you're going to use it in a short term, it's not enough to make a big deal. Right. But if you did that a lot over and over or something, I don't know. I could see how it being open to the air, like for all my face products and stuff, I try to close them as much as possible because then it's like there's only so much of oxygen it can react with. Yeah. But if it's open, it's like an endless supply of air to react with. So that's something I think about sometimes too. So I appreciated that story and that it gives me the opportunity to tell people to stop doing hacks where you put your toothpaste in clear hand soap bottles. So.
Dang. Interesting.
Yeah. Good. That was a good one.
That does seem like one of those that for most people, maybe you could say it and they would believe you and they would take that advice. But it does seem like a thing where you learn a lesson by doing it the wrong way once. Yeah. And then you never forget it.
That's true for sunscreen, but you might not realize that your toothpaste has become less effective.
That's true. Yeah.
So
that's a
I
good
worry
point.
a lot about toothpaste.
Great point.
For that one.
And various skin products you might not notice either.
Yeah.
It's like it might be like kind of go under the radar.
Yeah. Vitamin C is one of those. It's not very shelf stable, and so it can break down.
Interesting. Okay. This next one is on the subreddit Chem Help. Hi, everyone. I started my sophomore year of college, and I'm currently taking Gen Chem 1. This is the second week of school, but I do want to get the best grade I can in chemistry, even though I know chemistry can get a little tedious. Does anyone have any tips on what to ask my professor, or even what do I even talk about during his office hours? This would be the first time going to an office hour of any of my professors, but I just don't know what to talk about or even ask. Does anyone have any past experience or tips? I just want to get a feel for it and be going often to get help in the class. If anyone can help, it'd be great help. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to be like, chemistry is not tedious, but depending on how you teach it, chemistry can be tedious.
I feel like not always do people use that term in like a negative way.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
I feel like people just mean like there are lots of details.
Yeah, it's like a slog. Like I have to really think about all these little things here. Yeah. Okay, so office hours, this is a good one because I do have students who it feels like they don't think they should go to office hours or whatever. But I kind of maybe more generally for a student who's going into college and they're entering Gen Chem 1 and they're wondering like how to study, I would say use office hours to fill the gaps in your studying. So, go to class, take notes, come home, review your notes, and then try to practice it. Because much like math, you can watch somebody else do it and you can understand the theory, but then when you try to apply it yourself, it can be hard. And then when you're doing that, are there things that you're not understanding? And so are there gaps in your knowledge? And go to office hours to fill those gaps. But how each professor conducts their office hours is different. If I had a student come in and just be like, hey, I'm trying to do the best I can in the class. Do you have any tips for me? I'd be like, great. Yeah, let's talk about that. Or if they come in, they have specific questions. We'll talk about that. Today, I had a student who's just like, hi, I just want to say hi. And I was like, great. Cool. Happy to do that.
And this is my office. This is the hour.
He called me out on my plants looking kind of bad. My plants in my office, because I'm only on campus, I'm on campus less this semester. The class I teach at is like halfway across campus. So it's easier to just go there and then leave and work from home. So my plants have been the real ones who have suffered from that this semester. So sorry, plants. So I would say use office hours, 1, to get specific information about that class, but then 2, use them to fill the gaps in your knowledge that you find when you're studying. So going with specific questions can be really helpful. Going with a concept that you didn't understand. That's when I find office hours to be the most productive because I get a specific feedback source. And probably don't say, I know that chemistry is boring or whatever, tedious. Yeah, maybe don't start with that. Be like, I really want to do well in this class. What advice do you have? Is a good way to start early on in the semester. And then later on in the semester, more like what I said about specific questions or concepts.
Yeah. That's good. This next one is on a subreddit. How did we make this one a little less?
I think we said, am I the jerk?
Oh yes, that's right. Am I the jerk?
It's AITAH. So if you can figure out what that means.
Yeah. Am I the jerk?
This
we have
one
a variety of audience members, so that's the reason why. If you're like, why don't you just say it? It's because we just have different folks who's listening to our show here.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I will say for this one, I read the title and the first paragraph, and then I stopped.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So I'm going in blind.
I feel like skipping the title on some of these is a good move because it makes it more like a story where you don't find out the juicy thing.
Yeah.
So for y'all, that's why we are skipping those sometimes. Okay. I am a TA for organic chemistry lab. One of my students was 17 minutes late to lab last week. I decided to let her in as a one-time courtesy, but then she brought her backpack to the lab table and opened it on the table, loudly unzipping everything.
Can I pause and tell you why part of that's bad?
Yes, please.
So you should not bring, when I think about an organic chemistry lab, the table in there, we call it a bench top, is like covered in chemicals, right? And you hope that they've been adequately cleaned, but they likely have not been. And so you should not touch the desk even with your like hands in there. But taking your backpack and putting it on there potentially contaminates your backpack, and then you take that whole backpack home, and then now you've potentially brought chemicals into your home that are not lab safe. Now for undergrad labs, is it the end of the world? No, because you're not working with the most dangerous things, but you're not working with like the safest things either.
Right.
So I tell my students to imagine it's like somebody wiped raw chicken all over the lab bench top, and you don't know how well they cleaned it up.
Right.
It's not like you cleaned it and you know for sure that you neutralized all that salmonella. It's like somebody else rubbed chicken here and then they maybe cleaned it up. So
yeah.
Sorry. So carry on.
That's a good analogy.
And if you have that out, you can knock other things down. So it's good to have a clear workspace.
Right. I paused my lecture and told her to do that at the door. As she was walking to the door, she swung her backpack onto her back and knocked over lab equipment, breaking it.
I wonder if I knew that, if I remember that happened, and that's what made me think of that.
Oh my gosh. I decided to talk to her outside of the lab, and she explained she is struggling mentally and isn't able to focus.
Oh, that's sad.
I referred her to the wellness center on campus and told her it's best to leave lab for today. She attempted to tell me about her problems, and I told her that it isn't for me to know, and I asked if she wanted me to escort her to the wellness center, and she told me no. She brought up making up the lab, and I said she can come to the lab tomorrow if she emails the TA, and she said she couldn't make it. I told her we can talk about it later, but I have to get back to class. She went home instead of the wellness center. Today she showed up late and in leggings, which are not approved for the lab.
Ooh, yeah.
I told her I couldn't let her in with the leggings. I'm legally not allowed to, and offered her 15 minutes grace to go get changed. She then broke down in tears and told me it's too late to drop and I'm going to give her an F and she can't take it anymore. This was at the door of the lab with 20 other students inside. I told her I'm going to call the wellness center to come talk to her because I have to teach, and she became hysterical and made self-harm statements.
Oh, no.
And then began to walk away. I called the professor of the lab and he came to deal with the situation while I taught, but she reported me to him, and now I have a meeting. What did I do wrong?
Oh, man. That is tough, dude.
Gosh.
Okay, I'll say this is probably the hardest part about my job as a professor is when students are having a hard time mentally, you want to give them grace for sure. But if they aren't taking the steps to handle that, it's hard to always know like what's supporting versus what's enabling. And sometimes I've seen students manipulate it's very rare, but sometimes I've seen students manipulate and say things have happened, like someone in their family died and they were at the funeral, and then the story just kind of gets crazier and crazier, and then you're like, okay, well, you get an excused absence for this if you can give evidence to the dean of students, and then that never happens. So you're like, okay, I don't think that did happen.
Yeah.
So it's most of the time students are being honest when they're struggling with things, and it's more like, oh, you're struggling, but you're not taking the steps that you need to get it dealt with. And so I don't know if I'm really helping you or if I'm hurting you by letting this keep up. And it's really hard because I do think university students are under so much stress,
Yeah.
So when I'm listening to this, like putting myself in the teacher's perspective, I'm like, ooh, there's so much uncomfy there. Like it's uncomfy that she was late. It's uncomfy that she was explaining that stuff while they were like right by the door. He can't leave the other like 19 people. Labs are usually like about 20 people, He can't leave them alone. And there's usually only one TA.
Right. And not to mention the fact that like there are the things that must be, like required for keeping a safe lab environment. Like there's not possible to do grace about the leggings thing, for instance. Like go change, but other than that, there's not other
And if you miss the lecture at the beginning, sometimes they give important safety information there. So it's like, it becomes hard in the lab, especially to let people come in late. And yeah, like the leggings rule is there, like they're very thin. They're not going to provide adequate protection against some kind of chemical. So like you have to take that stuff into account. And if he did let her in and something happened, then he could be liable for that.
Yeah.
So actually, when I'm listening to this and he says, what did I do wrong? I don't think he did anything wrong. I feel like it's a difficult situation to navigate. That student is really struggling, it seems like, but they're also not doing the things they need to do to manage it. You know, like going to the wellness center is a really good option. Calling the professor from the class is a really good option. And I wonder, like, to me, when I hear that, if a student reported a TA to me and this was what they had said, I would tell that student, like, you did, the grad student who's the TA, I would say you did everything right. I appreciate you sticking to the safety procedures. I really appreciate you referring her to the wellness center. I appreciate you trying to have some grace with her and still maintaining, you know, those safety procedures and things. Like, and I think you called me when you needed to. But sometimes the students are upset. They need someone to blame, I think. And so sometimes people get thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts. What do you think about this story?
That is very tough. I mean, I feel like I remember the stresses of like that on the student side, you know? I've never been a TA or anything like that. So that's like your insight on that is super helpful. And obviously the rules side, I am super empathetic to. The like stress of being a student and stuff, I can see that. But what I remember about my experience in university was feeling like, oh, these other things that are here, like I had a lot of professors and TAs that were really helpful. And I never remember experiencing one that felt like they weren't trying to help me. You know? Especially like in a situation where I was like late or something and was asking for some grace. I don't remember a scenario where I was like refused it in a way that I thought was unreasonable. I know that happens. And things like the wellness center and stuff like that. I remember professors talking about, I can't remember what they call it at UNT, but just talking about like, here's these things that are available to you that are just free. These are just part of you being a student. And so I do think that would be the best solution, and expecting a TA to be like really good at that part would be really hard. To expect, or even a professor. I mean, it's like, this is why it's great that we have other resources. So that would be my thought, but it doesn't sound to me like the TA did anything wrong other than just tough situation. But
yeah, that's what I think too. It is a tough situation, but I do think just because you got reported doesn't mean you did something wrong.
Right.
That's something I've talked about with grad students more and more, is like part of my job is actually getting a lot of negative feedback. And I first started to get a lot of negative feedback in grad school. It's like you put something out there and you get edits on it. You know, you submit a paper to a peer-reviewed journal article. Those peers are like, no, this isn't good enough. You know, like you get reviews back from students, and sometimes they have some harsh realities that you have to learn from it and grow from. And so you have to take that and process it. So if there is something valid that the student, you know, gives feedback on and you did make a mistake, you just learn from it and do better next time. But from my perspective of how you've presented, which is hard with Reddit because you only get one side. I don't see anything that's blatantly wrong there.
Okay, this last one. Am I the jerk? Another one of those. So I'm taking advanced chemistry, and I have a friend in the class. It's very hard, especially organic chemistry. My friend is kind of dumb. Their words.
Jeez, I haven't read this one at all. That seems so mean.
Not trying to make her look bad here. Academics just aren't her strong suit. Even when I try to explain what I know, she doesn't get it. The thing is, along with my regular classes, I'm taking private tutoring with another teacher, which costs me about $15 per hour, which is a relatively high price because the usual here, wherever they are, is about $10 per hour. Now, she does have the choice to take these classes too, and there's nothing stopping her from it. in an economic sense, she's better off than me, and she's got the time. She just doesn't like the teacher and doesn't want to go. Yet she asks me for the exercises my teacher gives me, which I'm happy to give, but she also asks for my notes. I've reluctantly given them a couple of times, but she started asking me almost every time. I told her no this one time, and I think I offended her. But I stand by my answer. It feels like I'm cheating myself and my money if I give the information I paid for just like that. Please let me know what you think about this situation.
Okay, that's kind of tough because I'm like, my initial thoughts are like, okay, if she wants that extra material, she should go. But I did think, what if she can't afford it? But it seems like this person thinks she can afford it. So if that's true, it does feel like the person wants to get the benefit without putting in the work for it.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think, like, one, they're your notes. You went, you paid for it. You're allowed to do what you would like with them. It was like kind of my initial thought. But I could see why it doesn't seem fair for you to go and do all this work and then to gain a deeper understanding and then to just give it to someone else.
Yeah.
But I also think you sharing your notes, she's not going to gain that deeper understanding as much as you are in a situation where you can ask questions and you're doing these exercises one-on-one or in a small setting with a tutor. So she might benefit some from them, but honestly, I still think she's not going to benefit as much as you are from going.
Yeah.
Because you can give students notes all day, but that doesn't mean they can interpret it and apply it.
Right.
And then my last thought on this one is, even though it feels like you're cheating your money somehow, it's like, I get that feeling. It's like, well, it somehow makes what I did seem less valuable or something, but technically it doesn't, right? Because it's like, you're still getting the value that you paid out of it. It's not cheapening your experience.
Right.
But I could see that instinct of being like, no, I don't know. So I'm kind of like, I think you're allowed to say no, and you're not the jerk for that at all. And I do think that student should probably go if they want that material. And it's nice of you to even give them material, but I don't think it cheapens your experience if you did share. What do you think?
Yeah. I think the only thing I can think of is like, I would probably feel similarly. And I think where it comes down to is not, are you the jerk for not giving the notes? I think what usually comes down to this kind of interpersonal conflict here is the way that you try to explain why you don't want to.
Yeah, communication.
And I think if it were me, I was just like, hey, I know I've given you these a couple times. I just don't feel great about it. I feel a little like just weird.
Maybe taken advantage of.
Yeah, and saying it in that way where you're not trying to make the other person feel like you are being wrong. Ethically, you are in a weird area because people just don't like being called on that, right?
Yeah.
You can just say like, hey, I mean, I'm paying for this time. This is this professor's time that I'm getting tutored and exercise and notes and stuff like that. I just feel a little not great about just sharing that freely. It feels like an area to me I don't really want to, I don't know. And I think that depending on how you word that, that leaves more opportunity for someone to say, oh, okay, I see what you mean. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but you're not trying to like slap their wrist, I guess, if that makes sense.
That's true, yeah.
I feel like people resent that normally. Maybe this person, won't respond great either way, but at least I think it makes it a little bit easier to say like, hey, this is kind of on me in terms of like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
And if they ask you more, then that may end up happening. But like usually a no and a saying I feel weird about it. Like I remember as a student being asked for like notes from a class someone missed. And sometimes it's like, oh, they were sick.
Yeah.
Different story. Sometimes it's like, oh, were you just skipping or not paying attention? Or like just being lazy and not taking notes? Or like, what's going on? And so those can be kind of weird scenarios to navigate. So I definitely feel for that. I was like, just some not super specific, but just like the memory of like, oh yeah, all these different students are struggling through the same things together and having different levels of like, in this case, commitment to like going and getting extra help and stuff. And some people, I remember classmates that I have, they were like, "Oh, you really are coming in here doing the minimum, like
Yeah.
you're kind of shameless about it, like
Yeah.
you're not trying that hard." And that was hard for me to want to like
Right.
help a student like that myself. So, yeah.
I had two other kind of thoughts while you were talking also. It is hard to like give a well-formulated take like right off the bat without having any prior knowledge. But one thing I thought about is like kind of what are you hoping for the end result of this relationship? Is this a friend that you really care about and someone that you want a long-term friendship with? Then you really should communicate if you feel uncomfortable, because then that can help you, you know, like ultimately it will benefit your friendship. It's like the activation energy, to use a chemistry term, is high. It's hard to do it, but ultimately it results in a more stable product. So, you know, communicating with your friends, I think, is really beneficial and important. And the other thing is, I wonder if you could have a conversation with that person. I liked what you were saying about like not saying like, hey, you're doing this and it's wrong. I'd be like, hey, I feel weird about this.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could also ask some questions like, hey, it seems like you really enjoy these notes. Is there a reason why you don't want to go? And you said she doesn't really like the teacher. Just like, what do you not like about the teacher? You know?
Yeah.
Is that like valid? Did the teacher do something that made them really uncomfortable? Or is it just like, she bugs me? You know, those are kind of things where it's like, yeah, I know it's not the most fun, but I get a lot of value out of it. And so like for me, this is worth it. So I think if you want that same value, it might be worth it for you. And
totally.
And it also can be, they seem like they're better financially well off, but maybe they're not. So maybe you can ask the question about that too. Like, are you able to afford it? Or like, is there a reason? And that might also, trying to find the why behind it sometimes can help. Cause it might just be like, well, I just don't want to go. But I do spend a lot of time with my students, like trying to figure out like, why is this your behavior?
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. That's good. The axiom asks the question. We have that as in our community, this just saying of like, the question there needs to be asked, you know, and find a way to ask it. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I do think like it might also bring up an opportunity to say why it's so valuable to go and not just give notes. It's like you're asking, why don't you want to go? What do you like this teacher? If it's something as simple as just I don't like their style, you could say something like, to the degree of like, well, you know what I get out of it is not really just that I get these exercises and some notes. It's the experience of talking to that together and getting a chance to ask my own question and give my own response. Like the time spent with the teacher and all of that is valuable, not just the raw info.
Yeah, for sure.
It gives you a chance to maybe explain why it might be worth $15. But yeah, man, interesting.
Yeah, these are fun ones.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's what we have, but let us know if you like these. We can do more like this if you think it's fun. I think it's a fun one to prepare, and, you know, reading Reddit stories and like thinking through interactions and relationships, I think is always fun, and it's fun for it to be chemistry themed for me. So if you also like it, let us know.
And if you come across an interesting Reddit story that's chemistry related, send it to us.
Absolutely. We can even just incorporate these regularly into bonus episodes.
Why not? So question, Reddit story, idea, thought, follow-up, something like that, send it to us on our website, chem4yourlife.com. Join our community at patreon.com/chem4yourlife to keep the show going, keep it free for everybody, get some perks as a thank you. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and write a review. Subscribe on YouTube. Those things help us more people to find the show and help us explain the chemistry of their lives to them. Grab some holiday or any sort of Chemistry for Your Life merch at chem4yourlife.com/store. Support the show. Get something awesome you get to have as long as it lasts. And I did like an abbreviated version of all that.
Yeah, because it's not like a normal episode. It's also not a bonus. So I'll still, though, go ahead and shout out the people who make this possible, which would be Chris and Claire, Hunter, Steven, Tim, Katrina, Scott, Vince, Kyle, Brian, Latila, Rachel, Elizabeth, John, Jesse, Doreen, Chelsea, Heather, Ash, Emily, Avishai, Chelsea, Christina, Jacob, Venus, Suzanne, Erica, Cullen, Jeanette, Sierra, Autoclave, Julie, Justine, and Emily. Thank you so much for everything you do to make this happen. And
yay chemistry!
Woohoo!